Welcome to the working world of the 1930s, late 1930s into the 1940s. This, I guess we go as we have in our history of fashion class, from war to war, studying the effects of conflict and economies on fashion itself. So the working class in America, this is my mother. She was a registered nurse. They actually would train with a convent or with a hospital. At that time, the nursing schools had not really become part of universities until after World War II. So here is her nursing uniform. At one time it was white, but this being a linen fabric has aged. Linen and cotton both tend to yellow after a certain amount of years, and that's why when we looked at some of the wedding dresses that we have in our videos from the 1890s, they look very cream colored or yellow when at one time they were white. This, just a simple dress, it reminds us a little bit of the uniform of the soldiers in that it has some fit and right now we don't have stretch fabrics, so this is constructed so that it fits the body very close for work with patients, work in surgery. My mother was a surgical nurse, and this is what they would wear into surgery, very different from the scrubs of today. Each nursing school had its own hat, the way it was folded, and their pin that would be worn on their hat. So that is missing. I have the flat hat, but I don't know how to fold it. This has, though, interesting here, buttonholes. These were laundered every day. They would go in with the bleaching and the hot laundry from the hospital. They would clean their uniforms for them. So the nurses and doctors had probably 5 uniforms for the workday week, and then they would be cleaned professionally in the hospital so that they were as germ-free as you could get back then. But the buttonholes allowed a type of button to be worn and taken off. So it was almost like a French cuff on a man's shirt. These cufflink-like buttons would be inserted, and this would be your uniform at the time. A couple other fun things from this time period. My aunt was also a nurse. They went to nursing school together. You didn't leave home at 16 and 17 without your sister with you. And so there they were in San Francisco getting their nurses training, going on to public health. And with the pandemic and everything that's been going on today, we've heard a lot of information about public health. My mom became very interested in, during World War II, public health. And at that time, she went to UCLA from San Francisco. I think 1945, Los Angeles didn't have a lot of traffic and a lot different than today, orange groves surrounding the city. But the two of them went to UCLA to get their public health kind of certification, which was similar to a master's at that time. And they would go out into the home and work with people that needed assistance. It was very different. The population was much less than it is today, and a bevy of nurses worked San Mateo County, San Rafael County, in the Bay Area there, that these two women worked. And they would go out in a little, over their street clothes, they would wear a little coverlet like this, or a little topper, and they would be worn in it. They knew that the nurse was coming. If she didn't come in uniform, she came with this little topper, and she might teach you how to bathe your baby or how to fix nutritious meals. It was a kind of an interesting outreach that at this time the government was able to do. Our population has grown and things have changed. We can deliver stuff via video like we're doing today. And so this personal touch went by the wayside, but at that time this was really that you knew that the nurse was coming. She would put her stethoscope here and maybe some of her other instruments that she would use to do care as she came into the home. These are going to probably shock you because we'll go from the workaday world to maybe some sporting event. These are from the 1940s. These are what we would consider today thermal underwear. These were, my father was a hunter back then, and this is what you'd wear under your hunting clothes to keep warm in the winter time. If you look at this, this is literally like a quilt that you might have on your bed today or wrap up on the couch when it gets cold in Arizona. But this literally, that almost looked like the puffy marshmallow, would be worn under. So we've changed a lot in our ability to add thermal protection today. It's wafer thin because of the new technology. But back then they had nylon. Course, they're using nylon as the outer cover here, but literally a batting inside of cotton fibers, then quilted to hold that. So I could imagine this keeping you warm versus what we have today. I think we're pretty lucky with our synthetic fibers that we've taken time to learn about in our textile courses. So this gives you an idea of work and sports of the 1940s.